Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is Express News. India's President Draupadi Murmu was the chief guest at the Silver Jubilee celebrations of the Chhattisgarh Legislative Assembly in Raipur on Monday. President Murmu said that the Assembly has set an example of a model assembly not only for India but also for the world since it came into existence in the year 2000. Upon her arrival in Raipur, President Murmu received a warm welcome by the Governor, the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Ministers. President Murmu, in her message on the occasion of the World Tuberculosis Day, commended the national campaign being run by the National TB Elimination Program and urged all stakeholders and participants to work collectively and make India TB-free. On World Tuberculosis Day, India's Minister of Health and Family Welfare, J.P. Nadda, highlighted key initiatives taken under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. The government launched India 100 Days TB Elimination Campaign in high-burden districts. 24th March marks the World Tuberculosis Day. This year's theme is Yes, We Can End TB, Commit, Invest, Deliver. India is accelerating efforts to eliminate the disease by 2025. India's Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sarbananda Sonowal, is on a 3-day visit to Singapore. He attended the inauguration of the Singapore Maritime Week, which is an annual gathering of the international maritime community. The minister held productive discussions with industry leaders on India's maritime potential. The minister had an insightful discussion with Singapore Minister of State for Transport and Law Murali Pillai on the sidelines of the Singapore Maritime Week. Minister Sonowal met the Indian diaspora and discussed the rise of a developed India. Two countries have shared a close bond over 60 years, woven through centuries of maritime and trade ties, migration and cultural harmony. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, who is also the chairperson of the country's upper chamber of parliament, met Leader of the House J.P. Nadda and Leader of Opposition Mallikarjun Kharge in his chamber at Parliament House on Monday. As the second leg of budget session of India's parliament continues, ruckus erupted in the Rajya Sabha over Karnataka's Deputy Chief Minister's remark on changing the constitution. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju demanded an explanation from the Leader of the Opposition. The lower house, also known as the Lok Sabha, took up discussion on the Finance Bill 2025 for consideration and passing after it saw multiple adjournments over protests by opposition members. The first budget session of the Delhi Legislative Assembly under the BJP-led government began on Monday and will continue till March 28. National Security Guard commandos joined the Indian Army and the Jammu and Kashmir Police in search operation at Hiranagar sector near India-Pakistan international border. Forces received input regarding the presence of terrorists. Security forces busted a major terrorist hideout in a remote forest area in Poonch district of India's Jammu and Kashmir, leading to the recovery of a huge cache of arms and explosives. India's Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday extended greetings to India's brave sentinels of the Northeast, the Assam Rifles personnel and their families on Raising Day. On the occasion of the completion of 8 years of his government, Chief Minister of North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, highlighted that UP has become the growth engine of India's economic development. Australia has offered extended work rights and career support to Indian students going for studies. The announcement was made at a special event in New Delhi where top Australian universities participated to showcase Adelaide as a premier global study destination. The northern Indian city of Varanasi hosted an 8-day international program at the Inter-University Centre for Teacher Education bringing together 60 participants from 19 countries. The event, titled Empowering Educators in the Global South, focused on early childhood education and digital pedagogy. Indian equity indices ended on a strong note on Monday. At close, the Sensex was up 1.4% to stand at 77,984.38 points. The Nifty was up 307.95 points and was at 23,658.35 on Monday. The Indian rupee ended 34 paise higher at 85.63 per dollar on Monday. Gold futures maturing on April 4 were priced at rupees 87,670 per 10 grams on the multi-commodity exchange. Silver futures for May 5 maturity stood at rupees 98,023 per kg on the MCX. India has doubled its gross domestic product in decade at a growth of 105% from $2.1 trillion in 2015 to $4.3 trillion in 2025. According to data released by the International Monetary Fund, India stands tall now as the fifth largest country in terms of GDP in the world, after the US, China, Germany and Japan. Keeping in view India's vision of becoming self-reliant, production-linked incentive or PLI schemes for 14 key sectors are under implementation to enhance India's manufacturing capabilities and exports. Brent crude oil prices inched higher on Monday by 0.31% to end at $71.83 per barrel. Australia will bring forward $1 billion in defense spending in Tuesday's federal budget to boost its military capability. US and Russian officials began talks in Saudi Arabia aimed at making progress towards a broad ceasefire in Ukraine, with Washington, D.C. eyeing a Black Sea ceasefire deal before securing a wider agreement. Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umerov led a delegation for talks with the US in Saudi Arabia on Sunday. The Ukrainian minister reiterated his President Volodymyr Zelensky's aim of achieving a just and lasting peace for Ukraine and Europe. President Zelensky said that the discussions with the US in Saudi Arabia were productive and that Ukraine's delegation contributed constructively to the talks. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday to emphasize US support for Israel. Both leaders discussed Israel's ongoing military operations in Gaza and efforts to help release the hostages and bring them home. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the Tel Aviv District Court on Monday to testify in his long-running corruption trial. He has denied any wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty. Istanbul police clashed with protesters for a fifth consecutive night as tens of thousands rallied against the arrest of Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. He was jailed pending trial on corruption charges, sparking violent protests. İmamoğlu's wife, Dilek, denounced the charges against her husband as unlawful and an example of blatant injustice. Turkey's main opposition, the CHP of the Republican People's Party, held a symbolic primary on Sunday, drawing 15 million voters in a show of support for İmamoğlu. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called early elections on April 28, pledging to defeat US President Trump's hope of annexing the country. US government officials defended their use of wartime powers to deport 137 Venezuelan migrants, calling it necessary to protect US citizens. Venezuela denied these claims, and relatives and advocates disputed the allegations. A plane carrying 199 migrants deported from the U.S. reached Venezuela on Monday. The flight landed after Venezuela announced that it had reached an agreement with the U.S. to resume repatriation flights. Usha Vance, the wife of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, will travel to Greenland on Thursday, leading a U.S. delegation amid President Trump's controversial push for the U.S. to annex the territory. Australia's army has received its first delivery of a game-changer mobile long-range US rocket system. The government said the first two of a planned 42 high-mobility artillery rocket system or HIMARS launcher vehicles had already arrived from the US. South Korea's Constitutional Court has reinstated Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as acting president, dismissing his impeachment by 5 votes to 1. The court decision sparked widespread protests, with hundreds of thousands of South Koreans taking to the streets over the weekend. Addressing a gathering on Monday, Han Duck-soo said he would try to safeguard the country's national interest amid a global trade war. Thailand's Prime Minister faces a no-confidence motion in Parliament, with the opposition accusing her of failing to address the economy and of being under the influence of her father, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. Taiwan said it had detained on Sunday a Chinese boat suspected of illegally supplying fuel to fishing boats trespassing in Taiwanese waters. Bangladesh Nationalist Party leader Salahuddin Ahmed says the party does not support or agree with a proposal for changing the name of the country. He also said that the party does not equate the 2024 mass uprising with the 71 Liberation War. Time for a short break. Stay tuned.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. South Korea declared a state of emergency disaster as multiple wildfires ravaged the southern regions, killing at least 4 and displacing hundreds. Over 9,000 employees and 105 helicopters were deployed to quell fires engulfing mainly southeastern regions of South Korea, damaging residential buildings and a temple. Wildfires are raging across central and southern Chile, including the Araucania region, which prompted President Gabriel Boric to declare a state of emergency. A section of the historic Roman bridge in central Spain collapsed after heavy rains caused a river to overflow and flood the area. A sudden hailstorm hit Bolivia's El Alto, forcing residents and vendors to seek shelter and clear hail from their stalls and shops. In response to the unexpected storm, Bolivia's Legislative Assembly approved $75 million for disaster relief, with nearly 800 homes destroyed and thousands affected. A collaborative dive expedition between Chinese and New Zealand scientists has revealed new marine life forms in a trench located off the southern coast of New Zealand. Venezuela will cut the public sector work week to 3.5 days after low water levels began to threaten hydroelectric power generation. Heavy rainfall and hailstorms lashed the isolated areas of Odisha over the past 24 hours. Many parts of India are experiencing intense temperatures with heat waves alerts issued by Indian Meteorological Department for Delhi, Karnataka, Goa and Jharkhand. The first cruise ship of the season arrived at the island of Santorini following waves of earthquakes in February, which caused cruise ships to divert to other islands. The Japan Meteorological Agency announced the start of the cherry blossom season in the country's capital after observing a benchmark tree at Yasukuni Shrine. Parisians voted in a referendum to pedestrianize a further 500 of the city's streets. This aims to curb car usage and improve air quality. Hundreds of people visited the hallway of Romania's Galati University, which was turned into an art exhibit showcasing objects crafted from scrap metal. The 2025 Macau International Parade set off from the ruins of St. Paul's with almost 1,800 performance artists from 15 countries. The parade included 23 international troops and 60 local teams. The theme of the year is Love, Peace and Cultural Integration. Indigenous leaders from around the world wrapped up a 46-day journey in Chile's O'Higgins region with dancing, singing and prayers for nature's protection. The indigenous people's journey began in Italy and passed through India, Australia and Zimbabwe before concluding in Chile. Greece's most famous landmark, the Acropolis of Athens, was engulfed in darkness to mark Earth Hour. The global event aims to raise awareness about climate change. The residents of the town of Camohuani in Cuba showed off their allegorical floats with fireworks and music to celebrate one of their most important traditions, the La Parandas. Costa Rican artist Carlos Vargas, known as Tapado, performed an instrumental concert for dogs at the urban festival Amon Cultural in the country's capital, San Jose. Colombia's last great ape Yoko embarked on his journey from Pereira to a sanctuary in Brazil, marking a significant step for animal welfare in the country. Hundreds of people gathered in the central square to enjoy the Nowruz holiday in Mongolia, the Kazakh festival which marks the arrival of spring season. Hundreds of people gathered in India's northern Jaipur city to witness a classic and vintage automobile exhibition. The event featured a lineup of at least 100 vintage cars, some of which are more than 100 years old. The center of attraction was the 1913 Ford Model T with wooden wheels. Conan O'Brien accepted the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor during a gala held at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. William Shakespeare's Othello officially opened on Broadway at the Ethel Barrymore Theatre of New York City. France's director Alain Chabat has unveiled a new 3D animated series based on the iconic Asterix comics at a festival in Lille, France. There are 5 episodes of about 20 minutes each in the Asterix series, with 3 being shown at the festival before they go live on Netflix starting 30th April. Disney's remake of Snow White topped the North American box office this weekend with an estimated take of $43 million. Disney has announced that the Jonas Brothers will be recording an upbeat new theme song to celebrate Disneyland's upcoming 70th anniversary. The theme song, called Celebrate Happy, will be heard across various entertainment experiences as part of the park's anniversary festivities beginning 16th of May. Miss Universe Victoria Kher Thelvig and Miss Universe India Riya Singha visited the iconic Taj Mahal in India's city of Agra. Bollywood actor Vicky Kaushal's historical drama Chhawa earned rupees 10 crore on its sixth weekend, taking the total collection to 580 crore rupees. Excel Entertainment has announced their upcoming action-packed thriller Ground Zero will release on April 25, starring actor Imran Hashmi in the lead role. In the IPL, Rachin Ravindra led Chennai Super Kings to a 4-wicket win over Mumbai Indians in their campaign opener at Chepauk on Sunday. Afghanistan's Noor Ahmed made a stellar debut for Chennai, becoming the player of the match for taking a 4-wicket haul for just 18 runs. Ishan Kishan's century and Head's 50 helped Sunrisers Hyderabad to beat Rajasthan Royals by 44 runs at their home ground on Sunday. Rajasthan's Jeffrey Archer set an IPL record by conceding 76 runs in his 4-over spell against Hyderabad. This performance is now the most expensive in IPL history. Depleted Lucknow Super Giants to take on Delhi Capitals in Visakhapatnam on Monday. Rishabh Pant dons new hat as captain of Lucknow. BCCI announced the central contracts for the India women's team for 2024-25. A total of 16 players received central contracts this time. In powerlifting events at the Khelo India Para Games, Punjab's Seema Rani clinched gold in the 61 kg category, while Zainab Khatun secured the silver medal. Novak Djokovic scripted history after recording the most number of wins in ATP 1000 Masters events on Sunday as he enters into the pre-quarters of the Miami Open 2024. Mira Andreeva dreams of a sunshine double, and a third straight WTA 1000 title ended on Sunday as she lost to the USA's Amanda Anisimova in Miami Open. Three-time Grand Slam champion Sabalenka will now face American defending champion Danielle Collins in round of 16 on Monday. Alexander Zverev secured a straight-set win to advance to the next round, where he will face Australia's Jordan Thompson. Germany beat Italy on Sunday to advance to the last four stage of the Nations League. France beat Croatia 5-4 on penalties after their quarter-final tie ended 2-all on aggregate. Portugal's Francisco Trincao and Cristiano lead their team to a 5-2 win over Denmark on Sunday to qualify for the semi-finals of the Nations League. New Zealand reached the Soccer World Cup for the third time with a 3-0 win over New Caledonia on Monday. And it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.